Black guy. What is it? What is it? If it's Gogeta, I swear to God. Oh! Oh my God! I pulled him! Oh God! I ripped my shirt up.
Oh, I got Ultimate Gohan. That's nice. Where's Gogeta? Oh shit! Oh shit! I got it!
Come on, triple. Hey, let's go! Oh my God! Oh shit!
Dude, at this point, we are so deep into this banner. Like,
Yes! Yes!
Dude, are you serious?
Oh my God!
Please, all I need is Gogeta, man.
dude, I want you to pull him just as bad.
I got him! Yes! Oh my God, dude! Holy shit! Oh my God, BB, I'm so sorry I scared you. I love you, BB. Oh my gosh, dude!
Everything about STR Gogeta was broken beyond belief. First off, he introduced the immense damage super attack multiplier, which was a level beyond supreme damage, making him a step above every other unit in the game right off the bat. Secondly, Gogeta introduced a new type of ability into the game, super effective against all types. This meant that STR Gogeta would hit every unit as if they were a physical unit. Fighting an AGL enemy, Gogeta bypasses the type disadvantage and hits them for super effective damage. Fighting a type neutral enemy such as TEQ, INT, or STR doesn't matter, they're getting hit as if they were physical. This ridiculously OP offensive mechanic, coupled with his tremendously high stats and additional 7,000 attack from his passive, made Gogeta by far the hardest hitting unit in the game. Third, he had a fantastic link set, boasting key links such as Over in a Flash, Prepared for Battle, and Fused Fighter, allowing him to seamlessly link with the best units at the time. And last but most importantly, STR Gogeta had by far the greatest leader skill in the history of the game. All types Key 3, attack up by 3,000. This completely invalidated every other leader skill at the time, as there was no reason to run any other team other than Double Gogeta. Every unit in the game, and every future unit that would be released, could be run on Gogeta's team. Not many people remember now, but the difference between a full Dokkanfest team under a Double Gogeta lead and a Double Gogeta lead consisting of a team of 6 Cybermen was unbelievably small. Because a Double Gogeta lead would give your units a flat 6,000 attack increase instead of a percentage-based boost, physical Cybermen with their pitiful attack stats could deal actual damage to the enemies. STR Gogeta instantly became the only unit in the game that mattered. He invalidated team building and dominated every Dokkan event in the game with very little difficulty. You either had him or your account was several hundred steps behind. Even day 1 players were re-rolling their accounts just to pull STR Gogeta. There will likely never be another unit in Dokkan ever that will surpass STR Gogeta's strength on release. For the first anniversary, Dokkan actually released 2 Dokkanfests simultaneously, marking the game's very first dual Dokkanfest. INT Janemba was the other Dokkanfest, and he was also quite powerful, though nowhere near Gogeta's level. To be fair to Janemba, no other unit in the game was, so when compared to the previous top tier units in the game, Janemba was more than good enough. He possessed the defensive version of Gogeta's ability, Guard All Attacks, which allowed him to take all hits in the game as if they were from a physical enemy. He was an amazing tank, with a great link set that included shocking speed, making him a great run on Gogeta's team and INT teams. Unlike TEQ Piccolo and AGL Ultimate Gohan, who were mediocre banner units on Gogeta's banner, Janemba's banner featured the supremely powerful physical Super Saiyan Gotenks. He was a perfect linking partner for STR Gogeta and was the best super attack sealer in the game. To wrap up the first anniversary, we have to address one of the biggest misconceptions in all of Dokkan. During the first anniversary of the global version of Dokkan, SSR rates across the board were lowered around the end of July from 7% to 5%. People have misremembered exactly when this decrease in the SSR rate happened and have falsely spread the notion that Dokkan lowered the SSR rates for the first anniversary so people would have a harder time to pull Gogeta. The truth is that SSR rates weren't lowered until 2.5 weeks after Gogeta's release, during the release of the shitty limit break banner on Global, and they were lowered across all existing banners. So while Global did experience reduced SSR rates during the tail end of the first anniversary, it was almost 3 weeks after Gogeta's release. So while we don't exactly know why they decided to lower the rates, it wasn't done to make it harder for global players to acquire Gogeta. Still a massive dick move by Dokkan though. At the end of February, they also began Dokkan awakening the strike units into SSRs, starting with AGL Vegeta, who was quite bad. Moving on from the first anniversary, at the beginning of March, we got Dokkanfest Physical Full Power Frieza. He was the second unit to have an immense damage super, and he was the hardest hitting unit in the game after STR Gogeta. He gained an astonishing 120% attack on super, and linked surprisingly well with Gogeta, as he had over in a flash and fierce battle, the latter being a link that almost all units who Dokkan awakened from a Dokkan event possessed. On Global, Frieza was the first unit with immense damage, as he came out prior to the first anniversary. This led to his Dokkan event being nigh impossible for many global players, as this event was created with STR Gogeta in mind, who wasn't out yet on the global version. Frieza had a countdown super that one-shot pretty much every unit in the game. Due to this mechanic, the Namek Super Saiyan Goku that was released alongside Frieza had the ability to survive KO attacks when HP was 30% or above, in order to counter Frieza's one-shot super. At the end of March, we also got a GT banner featuring GT Super Saiyan 2 Goku and Metal Rildo, who were both solid, but nothing noteworthy. Moving ahead to the beginning of April, we got the last 3 key attack up by 3000 lead, Dokkanfest INT Ultimate Gohan. He was one of the best damage dealers in the game, and greatly stacked attack on super, similar to AGL Kaioken Goku. He also had shocking speed, and was able to get super attacks off at 7 key, making him a very comfortable run on any team you ran him on. Physical and AGL Ultimate Gohan also received Dokkan Awakenings, with Physical Gohan being a poor man's Gogeta with his all types 3 key leader skill. AGL Ultimate Gohan was slightly less impressive than his physical counterpart, but he did decent damage and had a 20% chance to stun the enemy on super. Ultimate Gohan's Dokkan event had a similar skill to Dokkan event Broly's Rampage, and his event required units with the wall standing tall link to bypass his damage reduction, which consisted of Majin Buu units. However, if you had STR Gogeta, you could just blow Gohan's back out without even running any Buu units. Interestingly, Ultimate Gohan's Dokkan event was bugged on release for Global, as his damage reduction skill didn't activate, making his event a cakewalk on Global compared to other Dokkan events. Alongside Ultimate Gohan, on April 1st, Dokkan released 2 units that rivaled the power of STR Gogeta. AGL Yamcha and TEQ Yamcha were busted beyond belief. These 2 free-to-play units Dokkan awakened from their very own Dokkan event. AGL and TEQ Yamcha did huge damage on Super, which was several levels lower than Supreme and Immense. They also had incredible links such as Speedy Retribution, which they only shared with other Yamcha units. Their passive skills lowered their defense and attack respectively at the start of turn. TEQ Yamcha was capable of tanking the weakest bosses in the game with his godly passive, and AGL Yamcha outdamaged every single unit in the game that didn't attack. Truly 2 of the units of all time. In the middle of April, TEQ Majin Vegeta received a Dokkan Awakening from the Hero Extermination event, and his banner marked the first ever double rates banner, excluding this limited time Christmas one. He was also the second attack all unit in the game after Broly. What made Majin Vegeta stand out was the fact that he had over in a flash, as well as a Saiyan Link set. This made him a perfect option on Gogeta's team, and arguably a better option for World Tournament than Broly, as it was pretty easy for Majin Vegeta to get a super attack off on Gogeta's team. STR Super Saiyan 2 Trunks and Great Saiyaman Super Saiyan 2 also released on a separate banner a few days later, with Great Saiyaman being mid, and Trunks being an incredible support unit for STR Gogeta. The first ever Golden Week celebration dropped on April 20th, which featured a rerun of STR Gogeta and several other Dokkan Fests. For those who don't know, Golden Week refers to a period of several national holidays in Japan that fall from late April into early May, and Dokkan typically releases a major banner every year during this time. Needless to say, the return of the god of the game was more than enough to carry the hype of the first ever Golden Week celebration. A week later, we got the introduction of the giant ape mechanic in Dokkan in the form of 3 new summonable SSRs: Great Ape Vegeta, Raditz, and Kid Goku. These characters had a chance to turn into a great ape once per battle, wherein they would become the only attacking character on the battlefield. While in this state, you didn't take any damage, but you can't use items or the abilities of the base card. This might sound broken on paper, but the giant ape mechanic was quite underwhelming on release, as it was far too RNG dependent on when characters would transform. The base characters themselves too were quite mediocre, so we'll just move right past them. On May 1st, we got a new Dokkanfest STR Super Saiyan 3 Vegeta. He was the best tank in the game and linked perfectly with Gogeta, sharing over in a flash and several other links with him. He also had a high chance to stun on Super, making him one of the best cards in the meta, despite the meta mainly revolving around offense. TEQ Super Saiyan 3 Vegeta also Dokkan awakened, and he had a all types 3 key leader skill, making him a great leader for people who didn't have Gogeta. At the end of the month, we got another GT banner, almost as if these GT banners were building up to something. This banner featured STR Super Saiyan 3 GT Goku and INT Super Baby 2. Baby was the INT type nuking lead and had a solid passive that raised attack by 70%. Super Saiyan 3 GT Goku was the STR nuking lead and was a really good support unit, giving all allies 25% attack. STR was already far and away the strongest type in the game, and Dokkan for whatever reason decided to release more STR over in a flash units to solidify Gogeta's dominance. The final Dokkanfest banner of this meta released on May 31st, featuring Dokkanfest TEQ Beerus, as well as the return of STR Gogeta. Beerus entered into a rage mode for 1 turn when HP was 30% or less, which functioned exactly like the giant ape mechanic. This card was insane. He could become invincible for a few turns while also dealing out free damage to the enemy. Beerus's banner came with a new INT Super Saiyan God Goku, who gained 70% attack and defense when HP was 50% or higher. His strangely low defense stat, however, made the defensive increase from his passive pretty much worthless. However, the main draw of this God Goku was his typing. He was the first INT unit with over in a flash, allowing players to finally build a complete over in a flash rainbow team. STR Beerus also Dokkan awakened and had the potential to dish out more damage than any other unit in the game, with his high chance to get a staggering 200% attack from his passive. Moving on to the final 2 banners of this meta, we got the second ever double race banner and the Dokkan awakening of physical Xeno Trunks. Xeno Trunks received one of the biggest glow-ups ever and became a legendary card among the Dokkan community. He was now the 3rd attack all unit in the game and gained 4 ki when HP was below 80%. This, coupled with the fact that he now had prepared for battle in his link set, made him a fan favorite in World Tournament teams. The final banner released on June 20th, featuring 5 new Great Ape units, Great Ape Bardock and his crew. All 5 units had a 10% chance to turn into a Great Ape, unlike the previous batch of Great Ape units that only had a 7% chance to transform. However, just like the previous batch, these Great Ape units were also underwhelming in base. To wrap up this era of Dokkan, they released a countdown to Dragon Ball's 30th anniversary campaign. 5 days into the countdown, Dokkan teased the upcoming release of the first ever LR unit in the game as a free-to-play card. And on the final day of the countdown, Dokkan hinted at a massive Dokkan festival on the horizon. Many players were understandably excited at the release of the first ever LR and a new major Dokkanfest. However, players had no idea that this upcoming release, just like Broly almost a year ago, would completely change the landscape of Dokkan, perhaps far more than before.
Yasha! これで終わりだ!
Five months after the release of Super Gogeta, we finally got Super Vegito introduced into Dokkan. He introduced the biggest leader skill jump we had ever seen in the game, giving AGL types 3 ki and 70% to HP, attack, and defense. Before this, the best leader skills in the game gave either ki and a flat attack boost or a percentage-based boost to a single stat. AGL Super Vegito buffed all stats by a massive 70% and gave AGL types 3 ki on top of that. This completely killed Rainbow teams and earned units with this type of leader skill the title of God Lead. Not only did Super Vegito have by far the best leader skill in the game, he was also the first superclass Dokkanfest to have 7 links instead of 6. He boasted 2 of the 3 best key links in the game and also had an incredible Saiyan link set to boot. Furthermore, he also raised all allies' attack by 30% for 1 turn, including himself in his super attack effect, making him hit slightly harder than just immense damage. And last but certainly not least, let's talk about Vegito's passive. He reduced damage received from normal attacks by 80%, making him completely invincible from normal attacks. Although he could still take sizable damage from enemy supers, the massive HP and defense increase from his leader skill, on top of the fact that you could just run units that seal enemy super attacks alongside Vegito, resulted in super attacks not being detrimental to him at all. He also introduced a new type of ability into the game, counters. Every time Vegito was hit by a normal attack, he countered by hitting the enemy with a special attack. Upon reading Vegito's initial details, many people believed he was underwhelming and inferior to Super Gogeta, thinking he was simply a tank with no offensive power. But that was before people witnessed firsthand just how broken this new ability was.
And Vegito's gonna just block, and he's gonna take out the Goku. Bye, Gokusa! 196k on the counter. Jeez, but this Vegito is so OP, man. That counter is just... that is the icing on the cake. That's what makes him probably the best card in this game.
Most of Super Vegito's damage came from his counter attacks, each which did slightly less damage than his super attack. With just 3 counters in a turn, he was capable of out-damaging every unit in the game, and he was still in the discussion as the hardest hitting unit in the game months later due to this ludicrous potential counter damage. Vegito was so powerful that it was optimal to run rare units such as Ninja Murasaki and Oceanus Shenron, as they were the only AGL ceiling units at the time. He was easily the best unit in the game and completely warped the meta, almost on the same level as STR Gogeta on release. Vegito's banner is also among the best banners in the history of the game. Not only was the previous god of the game on the banner, his banner also introduced the physical type god lead, Physical Broly. Broly was the first character to receive a second Dokkanfest exclusive card, and he was very powerful, though not on the same level as Vegito. He was the first unit in the game that had the ability to launch an additional super attack, so even though he did supreme damage instead of immense, his ability to double super on top of the flat 7000 attack buff he got from his passive made him one of the hardest hitting units in the game. Unfortunately, his pitiful defensive stat made him a bit of a glass cannon. Mono Physical wasn't as powerful as Mono AGL due to the lack of any real physical tanks, but it was capable of dishing out quite a lot of damage. Both Vegito and Broly needed 77 medals to Dokkan Awaken, but thankfully, their Dokkan events now drop 7 medals per clear instead of the usual 1 medal, though it now costs 50 stamina to take on their super difficult stage. Additionally, their Dokkan events were some of the most difficult stages to date. You needed units with the Fierce Battle Link to bypass Vegito's monstrous damage reduction, and considering TURs were still quite rare for many players, it was borderline impossible for most people to complete Vegito's Dokkan event. TEQ Vegito and INT Vegito also Dokkan awakened from Super Vegito's Dokkan event, and they were slightly better now, with INT Vegito gaining more attack per key sphere obtained, and TEQ Vegito now raising all allies' attack and defense by 30%. Broly's Dokkan event was equally challenging, possessing the previous Dokkanfest Broly's Rampage ability. Some players were able to brute force their way through Broly's ridiculously high defense with units that had the Blazing Battle Link, but most players were helpless before Broly's onslaught. However, people soon discovered that there was a summonable SR unit with the ability to single-handedly decimate Physical Broly, SR Master of Magic Goldo. Goldo had the ability to reduce the enemy's defense to 0 for 3 turns when he was hit, which allowed players to obliterate Broly with their regular teams. This made Broly's Dokkan event a breeze, and SR Goldo was revered by the Dokkan community. 2 days prior to the release of Vegito and Broly, they actually released the first ever LR card into the game as a free-to-play unit, LR Super Saiyan Goku. This free LR could be farmed from the Transcendent Warrior Prime Battle event, and you needed 777 medals to Dokkan Awaken Goku into a LR. His event dropped either 5, 7, 10, 15, or 20 medals, with 5 and 7 being by far the most common. This meant that you had to clear this 50 stamina event over 100 times just to acquire all 777 medals. Emphasis on clear. Most players had trouble beating this event once, let alone 100 times. You see, this event could only be attempted by Super Strike units, who for the most part were not great. Coupled with the fact that the enemy Goku hit incredibly hard and could one-shot most of your units, resulted in many players not getting LR Goku for many months, with most people outright choosing not to even grind the medals for Goku. However, despite this free LR Goku being a pain in the ass to obtain, he was actually insanely good. He was capable of reaching level 150 and had the highest stats in the game as a result. LR units also had a 24 key meter and launched a Colossal Super at 12 key and an Ultra Super Attack at 18 key that did Mega Colossal damage. Both of these new Super Attack multipliers were stronger than immense damage, and LR Goku also gained a massive 10,000 attack from his passive, making him the hardest hitting unit in the game over Super Gogeta and Super Vegito with less than 3 counters. The final thing to note from this celebration is the 30th Dragon Ball Anime Anniversary Super Warrior Saga event. A new stage was added every day to this event, so players could experience famous scenes from the Dragon Ball anime, from original Dragon Ball to the currently airing Goku Black arc. Alongside this event, they released 4 trophy cards, each representing iconic shots from the openings of Dragon Ball Z, Dragon Ball GT, and Dragon Ball Super respectively. At the end of the month, they released a Universe 6 vs Universe 7 banner, which featured a new Super Saiyan Blue Goku, Super Saiyan Blue Vegeta, Piccolo, and Hit. Unfortunately, the first ever Hit card was quite underwhelming, only having some decent stunning capabilities. Piccolo 2 was awful, but Super Saiyan Blue Goku and Super Saiyan Blue Vegeta were nukers that gained 15% attack per physical and tech key spheres obtained respectively. They linked perfectly with their nuking leader counterparts, and became the best nukers in the game, though nuking started to diminish drastically in popularity with the start of the God Lead meta. The Grim Reaper of Justice Gotenks was released in the beginning of August as the Tech-type God Lead. Super Saiyan 3 Gotenks was a unique card with 3 different super attacks depending on the amount of ki he had. At 9 to 10 ki, he had an immense damage super attack. At 11 ki, he massively raised attack and did immense damage. And at 12 ki, he did extreme damage and greatly lowered defense. This meant that to maximize Gotenks' damage, you wanted to aim for 11 ki and avoid getting 12 ki at all costs. This was quite annoying, as Gotenks had Over in a Flash, so in the middle slot linked with 2 other Over in a Flash units, Gotenks would automatically sit at 12 ki. However, if you were able to get an 11 ki super attack with Gotenks, he would become one of the hardest hitting units in the game, as he also gained 120% attack on super, similar to full power Frieza. The STR Super Saiyan Gotenks released alongside Super Saiyan 3 Gotenks was also pretty decent and could put out solid damage consistently. Gotenks' Dokkan event was quite annoying, as he was incredibly tanky, and his weakness was Super Buu and Piccolo units, both of which had 0 good units at the time. Quite shockingly, the next Dokkanfest released only 9 days after Gotenks, and people realized exactly which unit we were about to get from the Dokkan event teaser.
3倍4倍いや
AGL Super Saiyan Blue Kaioken Goku introduced a new type of leader skill into the game, HP, attack, and defense plus 100% to a certain type. Units with this type of leader skill were referred to as demigod leads, as they gave 30% more to all stats than god leads in exchange for no increase to ki. This type of leader skill was inferior to the God leads, though it was quite popular to mix and match God lead and demigod leads in exchange for slightly higher stats. Blue Goku himself was a beast of a unit. He had the best link set in the game, possessing shocking speed, prepared for battle, and over in a flash. He also hit like a truck, gaining an astonishing 20,000 attack and 10,000 defense for the first 10 turns of battle. This also counted turns where Goku himself wasn't present, so it's easier to think of it as Goku's first 5 appearances starting from his initial turn. Unfortunately, his name in-game was Super Saiyan Blue Goku and not Super Saiyan Blue Kaioken Goku, meaning you couldn't link him with other Blue Gokus. The reason Dokkan did this is because alongside Blue Kaioken Goku, they Dokkan awakened the old AGL Resurrection of F Goku. This was perhaps the strongest Dokkan awakening of an old unit to date. Blue Goku gained prepared for battle upon becoming a TUR, and his passive increased from 80% to 100% when performing a super attack. He hit almost as hard as Dokkanfest Blue Goku, and Dokkan was probably scared of this rotation being too powerful if they were able to be linked together. The tech nuking lead Blue Goku also saw an awakening into a TUR, but he didn't change much and was still in a similar spot as before. AGL Super Vegito returned on Goku's banner, but hilariously, Super Vegito was replaced by Super Saiyan 3 Vegeta on Global, and they simply pasted Vegeta's art over Vegito in the celebration info. Needless to say, people were absolutely furious over this change. In the middle of August, we got a VJump leak that revealed the last 2 God leads, Buuhan the INT-type God lead, and Omega Shenron the STR God lead. For those who don't know, VJump is a monthly magazine in Japan that promotes video games that are released based on brands which exist or existed in Jump magazines such as Dragon Ball, Naruto, Yu-Gi-Oh, etc. Back in the first several years of Dokkan, we would get the reveals for the next Dokkanfests and themes for major celebration days in advance through VJump. This was one of the first times we got major information for Dokkan through VJump, the other time being a poll VJump held a few months prior for what old SSR's players wanted to see get a Dokkan awakening, which will be relevant in a little bit. But before that, on August 18th, we got a double rates banner that came with the Dokkan awakening of INT Turles. Turles was crazy. He was now an all types 3-key leader and gave all allies 3-key and 20% attack from his passive. He was invaluable for World Tournament teams and would soon become a major asset on INT Buuhan's team. A week after Turles, we got a Dragon Ball Fusions banner that features 7 new SSRs from the Dragon Ball Fusions game. Pandel and Bullpen were decent support units, but the rest of the SSRs were nothing noteworthy and quite forgettable. At the beginning of September, we finally got Dokkanfest INT Buuhan, and he was right below Super Vegito as the second best unit in the game. Buuhan's super attack changed depending on his super attack level. From super attacks level 1 through 4, he would do immense damage. At super attack levels 5 through 9, he would do immense damage and lower attack and defense. And finally at super attack level 10, he had a 30% chance to greatly raise attack even more and greatly lower attack and defense. Thankfully, you could farm Buuhan's super attack from the STR Buuhans that dropped from the first stage of his Dokkan event. And speaking of which, Buuhan's Dokkan event was equally as annoying as TEQ Gotenks', as Buuhan was incredibly tanky and you needed units with the power bestowed by God Link to deal with his healing in later phases. Back to INT Buuhan, he gained 12% attack and recovered 3000 HP per key sphere obtained. He was capable of hitting as hard as every other top tier Dokkanfest, while also significantly healing your HP. Buuhan was the best villain unit we had seen to date, and he also had a decent link set, possessing shocking speed, which he shared with INT Ultimate Gohan and INT Janemba. Fast forward to the middle of the month, we got another double rates banner that featured characters that got random Dokkan awakenings here and there throughout the last few months. Remember that VJump poll that was held a couple months ago? The winner of that poll was TEQ Super Saiyan 2 Goku, and he received a Dokkan awakening in the middle of August. The banner also featured TEQ Future Gohan, AGL Super Saiyan 2 Goku, and Physical Super Saiyan 2 Goku, all of whom received a Dokkan awakening just a week prior due to placing in the top 7 on that poll. These units only received a Supreme Damage Super, as only the winner was given an immense damage super attack upon becoming a TUR. The next day, Dokkan dropped the second demigod lead, TEQ Golden Frieza. He was an amazing tank, reducing damage received by 70% and was able to hit decently hard with his 70% attack buff from his passive. He also greatly lowered defense on Super, which was a very valuable trait to have in this era of Dokkan. AGL Golden Frieza also Dokkan awakened from TEQ Golden Frieza's Dokkan event, and he became the best tank in the game, now reducing damage received by 90%. They also released a new free-to-play LR that could be pulled from the updated Friend Summon banner, LR 17 and 18. Fun fact, this was the first unit in the game to feature two different characters in one card fighting together. 17 and 18 had a really good leader skill that raised all types ki by 4, and they shared the same strength as LR Super Saiyan Goku. High stats, max level of 150, colossal damage 12 ki super, and mega colossal damage 18 ki super. Unlike LR Goku, however, this unit actually had good key links such as Shocking Speed and Fear and Faith, making them a fantastic option on Vegito's team and villain-centric teams. Their grind was also held, as you needed medals from every single Dokkan event available in the game, including 77 medals from the 5 most recent Dokkan events. A week later, we got the first Dragon Ball Heroes collab banner in Dokkan, which featured Adult Super Saiyan Gotenks, AGL Baby Janemba, INT Bobbity Kid Buu, and STR Super Pycon. Gotenks was a great unit and was amazing on Super Saiyan 3 Gotenks' team. He raised attack by 50% on Super for 3 turns and gained 80% attack when ki was 12 or more. The other 3 SSRs were decent utility units for their respective monotype teams, but weren't anything to write home about. At the end of the month, Omega Shenron finally descended onto Dokkan, and many people were excited, not necessarily for Omega himself, but more so for the fact that Super Gogeta finally received his god leader. Omega Shenron was pretty good. He greatly lowered defense on Super and lowered all enemies' attack by 30% from his passive. He was a powerful utility unit that debuffed the enemy, allowing your units to tank better. The main downside of Omega was his link set. Mono STR mainly included units with over and a flash, and there were very few STR units that shared shocking speed with Omega. He was considered the weakest god lead at the time, but he was still in the highest class of characters and considered one of the best units in the game. The banner unit SSRs released alongside Omega were all decent damage dealers, but the main prize was the aforementioned rare Oceanic Shenron, who debuted on Omega's banner and became a staple on mono AGL teams with her super attack ceiling capability. Just over a month after the release of the Dragon Ball Fusion's banner, they gave Dokkan Awakenings to 3 of the previously released SSRs. Pandel and Bullpan became slightly better support units, and Broly was now a decent damage dealer and a solid option on monotech teams. The last 3 units from the VJump poll also received Dokkan Awakenings around this time. The Baba Shop SSR Goku was now a great option on mono AGL with his ki and attack support from his passive, while Super Saiyan 2 Vegeta and Super Saiyan Gohan disappointingly were barely better than their SSR versions. On October 20th, the physical demigod leader was released in the form of Goku Black. The Goku Black arc was still currently airing at this time, and many players were ecstatic to summon for the first ever Goku Black unit in the game. Unfortunately, he wasn't as powerful as players were hoping for. He was a watered down version of INT Buuhan, having the same super attack level gimmick as Buuhan while also being an inferior nuker. His only real value was his above average damage, and the player base was quite underwhelmed by physical Goku Black. Perhaps realizing this, Dokkan actually buffed physical Goku Black when he came out on Global. He had higher attack and HP stats than his JP counterpart, and he also raised Extreme Class Allies ki by 3, transforming him from a mediocre release to an amazing one only on Global. Moving on to the end of the month, Dokkan was celebrating hitting 100 million global downloads. They released a special ticket banner that featured every single Dokkanfest ever released up until STR Omega. They gave all players 1 ticket for every 50 stones they had ever spent from the start of the game up until October 18th, which could be used on the special ticket banner. Dokkan also released the 15th World Tournament and massively reworked the rewards and point system for World Tournament, as well as adding a local ranking in which players could earn a new Piccolo unit that would eventually become an LR months later. To celebrate the 35th anniversary of the Dr. Slump anime, they released a special Arale crossover banner that features 7 new SSRs. Physical Arale had a good all types 3-key leader skill. AGL Arale was capable of stunning the enemy on Super, and STR Arale was actually a pretty good attack all unit for World Tournament. Obacha Man, Sour Man, and Mercenary Tao however were quite forgettable, but General Blue was one of the best stunners in the game, having a 70% chance to stun on Super. About a week later, Dokkan awakened the Family Kamehameha SSRs, and they were all just slightly better than their SSR versions, with STR Goten being the best out of the 3. However, players at the time, as well as every Dragon Ball fan around the world, had their attention placed elsewhere. Episode 65 of Dragon Ball Super just finished airing a few days prior, and at the end of the episode, it showed a preview of next week's episode. Dragon Ball fans were losing their minds over the return of Vegito, now donning the Super Saiyan Blue transformation, and his fight in episode 66 a week later blew everyone away. However, Dokkan players had no idea that what they just witnessed would immediately be recreated in-game.
お前らのセンスに合わせて名付けるとしたらスーパーサイヤ人ロゼ。どうした？てめえの力はこれっぽっちか？
The second ever Dual Dokkanfest featured AGL Super Saiyan Rose Goku Black and Physical Vegito Blue, who released just a few days after episode 66 aired. They introduced a new type of leader skill into the game, Super Class and Extreme Class 3-key, HP attack and defense by 50%. You can tell that they learned their lesson from Super Gogeta, as instead of giving one of them an all-types lead, they decided to split it into Super and Extreme Class, as well as lower the stat increase so as to not invalidate the previous leader skills in the game. Despite this, they were still supremely good leaders, and the amount of variety they allowed in team building allowed Super and Extreme Class teams to rival monotype teams, if not exceed them. Everybody expected Vegito Blue to break the game, but he fell just shy of everyone's expectations. That doesn't mean he wasn't amazing though. He launched a guaranteed additional attack that had a 10% chance of becoming a super, and a 70% chance of launching another additional attack which had a 10% chance of becoming a super. This meant that with good luck, Vegito Blue could launch up to 3 super attacks in a turn. And that wasn't all. Vegito Blue also countered normal attacks with tremendous power, just like Super Vegito. He had by far the highest offensive potential out of any unit in the game, not counting nuking. However, the main thing that differentiated Vegito Blue from Super Vegito, and easily his biggest flaw, was the fact that he only reduced damage received from normal attacks by 30%, instead of 80% like Super Vegito. This meant that he was an unreliable tank, and you had to be way more cautious with him than Super Vegito. He was still undeniably a top 5 unit in the game, and a must summon for players. However, he often sat towards the bottom of many people's top 5s, and that's because Vegito's counterpart was widely considered to be the better of the two. Super Saiyan Rose Goku Black was very simple in comparison to Vegito Blue. He gained 100% attack and gave extreme class allies 3 ki. Seem familiar? When Physical Goku Black was buffed on Global months after his initial release on JP, they simply gave him a part of Rose Goku Black's passive, and that single ability made him into an amazing card. Extreme class units don't have as much synergy with their links as Saiyan units, so Rose's ability to give 3 ki to villains allowed units on his team to perform super attacks consistently. He was exactly what villains needed and was the perfect leader for the team, making every villain that was run with him more effective. Furthermore, Rose's team had more units with versatile abilities than Vegito Blue's team, which made his team better in many people's eyes. They had great debuffers, healers, supports, tanks, and damage dealers, whereas super teams really only had the latter two. Vegito Blue could carry the whole team with some good luck, while Goku Black lifted the whole team up and made everyone else better. He was considered the second best unit in the game, with Super Vegito still being considered number 1 due to being the closest thing in the game to a perfect unit. and his position was further solidified with the release of the Hidden Potential system at the end of the month, which allowed units to gain more stats and the ability to crit, dodge, and launch additional attacks. Units with percentage-based buffs in their passive saw a higher increase in their overall numbers than units with flat attack and defensive buffs, and units that countered and launched additional attacks were also massively buffed by the ability to crit and perform more attacks. However, due to the scarcity of potential orbs back then, it took some time for players to strengthen their units and see the full benefits of the Hidden Potential system. Let's also not forget that back then, you had to activate each node one at a time, so it took 50 years just to unlock all the nodes for a unit. After Goku Black and Vegito, at the beginning of December, we got Dokkanfest Cell, who is the STR demigod leader. He was the second character to have 2 Dokkanfest exclusive cards, and he was the first unit in the game to stack defense on Super. Just like Super Saiyan 3 Gotenks, Cell had 2 types of super attacks depending on how much ki he had. At 10 and 12 ki, he caused immense damage and stacked attack and defense by 20%. At 11 ki, he did supreme damage to all enemies and also stacked attack and defense by 20%. He was a viable option for World Tournament, but due to needing 11 ki to get his AoE super off, people opted to just stick with Broly or Arale. He hit pretty hard with his 100% attack buff from his passive, and he worked really well with Omega Shenron. The OG STR Super Saiyan 2 Gohan also received the Dokkan Awakening from Cell's medals, and he received an immense damage super attack upon becoming a TUR, making him a decent damage dealer. A few days later, Arale received a Dokkan event, in which physical Arale received a Dokkan Awakening. She did immense damage, with a 30% chance to greatly raise attack even more, just like Buuhan. She also received 120% attack when performing a super, meaning she hit really hard. She also had a pretty decent leader skill, raising all allies ki by 3, and HP, attack, and defense by 30%. A week later, Baseball Yamcha made his debut as a free-to-play unit, and he was just as godly as the previous 2 Yamcha units. Another week later, Dokkan entered its Christmas campaign. They released a special banner with 3 new SSRs, and you were guaranteed to get either Trunks or Vegeta on your first multi-summon. Super Saiyan Blue Vegeta and Super Saiyan Trunks were both very good support units that also raised all allies' attack by 20% from their super attack effect. Super Saiyan Blue Goku wasn't as impressive, but he could dish out some solid damage. The 16th World Tournament also dropped, and players were finally able to Dokkan Awaken Piccolo into a LR. He required special medals earned from playing World Tournament, so it took many players a few months to actually get LR Piccolo. Piccolo had an incredibly high defensive stat, on top of gaining 10,000 defense from his passive, and giving all allies 5,000 defense. He instantly became one of the best tanks in the game, and many people paired him with Vegito Blue to increase his tanking capabilities. Piccolo's leader skill, despite not being very good, was the greatest single stat increase we had seen to date. HP up by 150%. We also got the first Christmas double race banner, which gave 2 Santa Roshis per multi-summon, which were basically just Christmas-themed Elder Kais. Majub and Super Saiyan GT Goku also received TURs, but they were horribly mid. The Christmas banner was clearly a bait banner, as Dokkan had been hinting at a new major release at the end of the month. And boy did Dokkan deliver.
我こそが神、我こそが正義。さあ、我が前にひれ伏せ。お前に俺たちの生きる思いを潰させるものか。
Dokkanfest Merge Zamasu and Dokkanfest Sword of Hope Trunks were released on the same banner, and physical Vegito Blue also made a fast return. Trunks and Zamasu were sort of the demigod versions of Vegito and Rose's god leader skill. They gave 70% HP, attack, and defense to Super Class and Extreme Class respectively, but only 1 ki. As a result, many people would mix and match this leader skill with Rose and Vegito's leader skill to get slightly higher stat increases in exchange for 2 less ki. INT Trunks was a self-sufficient nuker, gaining 15% attack per INT ki sphere obtained, but also created his own INT orbs. Merge Zamasu was a really hard hitter, gaining 120% attack at the start of turn. He also debuffed superclass allies' attack by 10%, but since he was mainly ran on villain teams, that wasn't really an issue. Both units also had farmable super attacks, making them fantastic options for anyone who pulled them. At the same time, they dropped the second ever Prime Battle event, which dropped a first form Frieza that could be Dokkan awakened into an LR. This free-to-play LR had the single highest attack stat on release, and he gained 13,000 attack and 5,000 defense at the start of turn. He hit even harder than LR Goku, and he was the hardest hitting unit in the game outside of Super Vegito and Vegito Blue on a turn where they got multiple counters. For New Year's, they released an amazing banner that featured many of the best units in the game, including Rose Goku Black, Super Vegito, Super Saiyan 3 Gotenks, and Blue Kaioken Goku. The final Dokkanfest of this meta released on January 13th, featuring the last demigod leader, INT Super Saiyan Blue Vegeta. He was a pretty straightforward damage dealer and stacked attack for 3 turns on Super. He also had the added ability of debuffing extreme class enemies' attack and defense by 20%, making him a really good unit against extreme class bosses. These 3 Super Saiyan Blue Vegetas also received Dokkan Awakenings, with STR Blue Vegeta and AGL Blue Vegeta being good options for their respective monotype teams. It had been over a year now since the start of the nuking meta, and over 6 months of us being in the God Lead meta, so physical Super Saiyan Blue Vegeta wasn't really relevant anymore even after becoming a TUR. Lastly, Dokkan released another double race banner on January 20th, which came with the Dokkan Awakening of AGL Kaioken Goku. Like many Dokkan Awakenings for old SSRs, he was alright, and nothing too noteworthy. Around this time, we also got VJump leaks and a livestream that teased a new mode called Virtual Dokkan Battlefield for the upcoming 2nd anniversary, as well as a new LR Ginyu Force card. They also announced a new difficult event known as Boss Rush, and a red Dragonstone that would allow players to recruit one of the 5 3-key attack up by 3,000 type leads for free. The 2nd anniversary was shaping up to be the biggest celebration yet, and we were about to enter a new era in Dokkan, where damage once again reigned supreme. Defense had just started to matter a bit more during the God Lead meta, but the 2nd anniversary units were about to take the game by storm, and introduce a new level of power creep into the game.